Hey guys, Pater Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Thanks to you guys here on YouTube. Christian Geek Central recently passed 2,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for telling others about this content. I appreciate it so much, and it's pretty cool and weird to hit this milestone, and I want to celebrate it a little bit, so I'm going to have a Q&A right here on youtube.com/christiangeekcentral at 6 p.m. Arizona time. I'll leave a link below where you can figure out what Arizona time is. 6 p.m. Arizona time on Monday, March 30th. So I hope you will come by for that. I would love to connect with you. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
All right, buckle up. This car has a spoiler. Oh my gosh, sitting in my garage having just finished watching Color Out of Space. I'm still just kind of stunned by that experience. Wow, the most impactful horror movie I have seen in a long time. But unlike, say, a movie like Hereditary, I feel like it's one that calls for repeat viewing for me, that I'll want to see again. I wondered halfway through if it wouldn't be one that I could stomach seeing again. You know, when the mother and the boy kind of get fused into one, that for a little while there was just evoking some things, even though it had this otherworldly alien quality to it, this unrealistic quality to it. It was evoking some more, I almost want to say primal, but that's not really the word I want to look for, but some deeper fears. You know, the fear of losing a loved one to a horrible wasting disease that not only distorts their body, but distorts their mind and makes them less able to communicate, less able to think. And then to just the deeper fear and agony of a parent when thinking of or experiencing a child in pain that is suffering and you can't do anything to help them. I mean, these are realities that people, many people experience, and that I may yet experience in my life. And even though it had the trappings of an otherworldly alien quality to it, it seems clearly to, on either a conscious or subconscious level on the part of the filmmakers, or for all I know, Lovecraft, I haven't read the original story, it seems clearly to subconsciously or consciously take inspiration from those kinds of realities of mortality. And so that, when it got to that point in the movie, it's like, oh, I don't know, you know. But then it kind of, in a sense, eased off of that in just going totally bonkers with, you know, the mother and son fusion further mutating into just a straight up, like, menacing evil, which I think has its own, you know, potential symbolism for people that have to care for someone, for a loved one that is wasting away and just is completely dependent upon them. You know, there can be, I don't know this from personal experience, but just, you know, third-hand kind of information, you know, knowledge, there can be resentment toward that loved one whose health is, who is in such a wasted state that they are, you know, just a shell of their former selves, and at least in terms of what we are able to interact with and you know, their ability to communicate and stuff. And so the fact that they demand so much, you know, there's that moment where Nicolas Cage says to his daughter, go and feed your mother. You know, there's resentment in that duty, you know. And So I think that if you're tuned into that aspect of this kind of story, it really taps into just some really heavy stuff. And, in one way I was wanting to recoil from that, and in another I was like, Pater, there might be something good for you in this. Again, I apologize if I end up repeating some of these things when I record my review, but in modern Western living, sorry, I had a timer go off and interrupt me. In modern first world living, we are not exposed to death and mortality in the same way that humans all over the world have been for centuries, and that humans in other parts of the world are still very much exposed to. And so, while some people might look at a movie like this and say, oh, that's grotesque and we shouldn't be thinking about those kinds of things, we shouldn't, we shouldn't be going to these kinds of dark places, and that's, some people might even say that a horror movie like this is a sinful thing to watch, but I think that there is a sanctified way to watch and experience something like this, to realize the deeper things that it's alluding to or inspired by, intentionally or not, and to meditate on those things. What do we do in the face of these, the real parallels that are evoked by this movie? Anyway, aside from those heavy realities, of watching someone become sick and waste away that you love, or someone suffer that you love, there's also the heavy reality of you're watching your own self deteriorate, which several characters experienced. I knew things were going to a crazy place when she cut the tips of her fingers off. They followed through on the threat. A lot of movies will use cutting vegetables on a cutting board as kind of a device to bring tension to the room, like, oh, are they going to cut themselves? But a lot of movies don't follow through, or if they do, it's just a small little cut or something like that, and that's plenty. But this, oh my gosh. And that was in the first, 37 minutes into the movie, and, yeah. So there's that kind of, tapping into that fear of losing control of your mind and seeing your body waste away, really heavy stuff. But then the movie, really, I think, provides some relief for someone like me that's processing those things while watching a movie like this, by just going totally off the rails and leaning into the sci-fi more in the back, 30 minutes of the movie, which, started tapping into, I think, more the geek side of things, like, oh my gosh, these crazy otherworldly aliens and what effect they might have on us and stuff like that. So I think at the right time it eased off in a sense, even though the movie structurally is building to a climax. But I think it stepped away from kind of like parallels to reality at that point enough that it gave me some reprieve, and also allowed me to then appreciate it for the geek qualities, the sci-fi, aspects of it. My gosh. And then, the brother, we saw he disappeared into the well, and we never really saw him again after that. I thought they were going to make something of him putting on goggles at the last minute, like maybe that was somehow going to protect him, and it didn't. So we never saw him again, and I guess I'm fine with that, but I did kind of, part of me wanted to, what are they going to do with him? What bizarre mutated thing is he going to become? But, there's only so much they could do after seeing, the alpacas mutate together into a very John Carpenter's The Thing, with the dogs from that movie melding together in a horrible way. So so I guess I'm fine with that. You can only do so much before it's just like, you're going to jump the shark. And so they had to shift modes to go away from body horror into a more like sci-fi energy type weird sci-fi thing. You did have the sheriff dude, I think that's what he was, the cop, whatever he was, get like pulled up into the trees and then his face, stabbed through by a living organism tree thing. I don't know what that was. It was crazy. So much craziness, and then you do have the guy, the not the meteorologist, the water specialist or whatever he was, the surveyor, survive at the very end, but there's this foreboding sense of like, now this whole community is going to be exposed to this because they're drinking the water, and so again tapping into this idea of inevitability, of this is something that is going to spread. It's something that's going to affect all of us. I wonder if, I haven't read Lovecraft like into his psychology or read his work, any of his work enough to know what he was maybe dealing with. I think he probably, if I remember correctly, did have some psychological issues, maybe diagnosed or undiagnosed, I don't know. But he really seemed to be plagued by anxiety over the human condition and where this life ultimately will leave us, and that is to death, to wasting away, to mortality, and to the great unknown that is beyond. And as believers, we have insight into what lies beyond, and we have reason to hope. But Lovecraft, I don't think was remotely a believer, and so didn't have that hope. And so, anyway. There's just a lot that this movie leaves me thinking about in a way that I think is good, that is not merely unsettling and unproductive in inducing anxiety, but is actually good in provoking unsettling feelings in me that that maybe the Holy Spirit is saying, okay, now, Peter, don't just stay in this unsettled feeling, but let these unsettled feelings lead you to really face these issues of mortality and to process them in light of truth, and to really face them, to not live in denial of them or in abstinence of them, as is so easy in modern wealthy culture. Anyway, yeah, I'm just stunned in the aftermath of this movie. I don't know. I'm not going to simply go back and rehearse events of the movie and talk about who died, and just for the sake of talking about spoilers. I think I talked about the spoilery moments that were most impactful to me, so I don't think there's more that I need to say. Yeah. Wow. What an experience.